I'm Troy Baker, and I get to play Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Let's take a look at it together. So this is the start of our game. This is one of the first things that we shot. This is Indiana Jones waking up in Marshall College, and this is where we kind of establish the timeline of where we are. We get to see a little bit of a different Indiana Jones. There it is, Marshall College, 1937. So this is the first time you really kind of get to explore this space, and all you hear is this crash in the middle of the night. Man, this is so cool. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because this is really the first time, because in our mind, when we're making this, I never get to really see what it is that we're looking at. And it's like Christmas, man. It's always, always, always better than what's in my mind. But the accuracy of like how much they went to, the links they went to actually make it authentically Marshall College is great. Yeah, so this is going through in the library, and you get to see kind of like a lot of these are the things that Indy has brought back from different digs to Marcus and said, what can I get for this? How can I somehow parlay these into the university being able to fund my next expedition. So we come in, and this is the first time that we see Locus. I love this line here. It's like kind of looking around like, what are it's like the thought when we were doing this is like, okay, some student is in here,
All right, pal.
It's like, all right, pal, you can't sleep here.
Can't sleep.
And then he stands up, and there's Tony. There's the finger wag. And I will say this, man, he is as daunting as you think. There's that first boom. Tony was not afraid to get physical.
Right. You asked for
And now we get to go hands-on. There it is, the first time we get to punch.
This is a museum. Careful.
There's so much narrative, like, I hate exposition. But there's so much that we actually learn about what's happened in between Raiders and now in this one conversation. We get to find out what's happened to Marion. We get to find out, basically where Indy's at in his life. Golly, man, they did such a great job. Like, even that suit and just the way he looks. I feel terrible for my co-stars because people who shot with Harrison Ford got to look at that the entire movie. That's not what my castmates were looking at. I had weird hair that was coming out of a mocap helmet. It was just not good. Not good at all. What I love is just all the attention to detail to all the actual historical like artifacts that they have in here. And like, these are priceless. Like, to be able to find this in one place is just like incredible. Uh-oh, here's one of the first statues that we get to find.
a depiction of Bastet.
Goddess of protection, of warfare, of music.
A lot of things.
I love this part with going back through, because I mean, obviously what we do is we shoot these scenes, and then all the stuff that happens in gameplay, we still need to have all this VO that's happening, conversations between he and Marcus. And so it's going through and, all right, this is where this belongs, and like getting to see how it gets used in engine is always fun to me. Because when we're doing it in the booth, because the VO will happen a lot of times just in the booth. So I was like, I wonder how they're going to implement this line. Like, oh, that's how.
Terracotta, likely Babylonian, out of Iraq.
So, is everything back?
Not quite.
Well, what's missing? SW 003.
And this is when we find out about there's one of these things that's a little bit more important
He took the cat mummy, Marcus.
to Indy than the others.
But why?
And now we get to go to Father Antonio's office. So now we're back in the Vatican. Oh, this looks so cool. It sounds so weird for me to say. It's like, oh, look at this. But you don't understand. We're on a volume, we're on a sound stage, gray carpet, gray walls, and 64 cameras pointing in our direction, capturing our movements. So I don't get to see this. There's going to be like a table that's set up. There's going to be a chair that looks nothing like that. None of the little artifacts and the bits of business that you see, like the typewriter, or we had something that was standing in for the gramophone because we had to interact with it. So anything that we touch, we actually get to see. I love that they put the apple on the desk. Remember from the student in Raiders?
Nearly. I was gonna take my students on a field trip. Get their heads out of books for a while.
That looks exactly like it did in Raiders. Isn't that crazy?
On next plane to Rome. Stop. Need help. Stop. Meet me in Vatican. Stop. Indy.
And of course we had to do this, but it's so perfect that we get that classic red line on the plane leading us straight to Rome. There's the whip.
There we go.
So oddly enough, as much time as I spent learning how to use a whip, and I got pretty good at it, I never used it once. And so I got like a 10-foot whip. And I was like, well, I want to be able to do that. And they said, if you're going to use it, we want the player to do it. And I went, all right, we're making a game. If you've been to Rome, then obviously you know this building. Like it just rises up like a monolith in the middle of nowhere. It's one of my favorite cities to walk around. It's just to be able to stroll past something that has been there for centuries. I never got to scale the wall. Of course, they kind of frown on that. Something that I love, especially my style of playing, is I'm really stealth based. I have a lot of friends that are run and gunners. That's not me. If I can get through a level without, like 0 casualties, then I will do it. But the thing that I love about what we did in our game is almost anything can be used as a weapon. Like you can pick up a broom, or you can pick up a shovel. You can pick up anything and actually use it as a weapon. That to me that right there is Indiana Jones. Improvise. The cat mummy. It wasn't until about a week ago that I actually saw what that thing looks like. My prop was just like, it's this big. That's all that I had to work with. Yeah, crowbar's gonna be a little bit more effective than a broom. Bip! Bye-bye. Good night. I've never been on this side of Castel Sant'Angelo. Oh, I hate when something like that comes up. It's like, of course. Oh, look, a door I can probably open. No, you can't. Great, I gotta go find a key. Boom! Oh, trip and then bang. Oof, oof. You could have just hit him over the head and the back, but no. You had to trip him first and then get his attention so he could splat him in the face. Savage, bro. So here's the thing. Indiana Jones, Dr. Henry Jones Jr. is an archaeologist. He's a professor.
And that's professor to you.
Everything that he does, all the fights that he gets, if you look, when he throws a punch, it is a wild, like, it's a haymaker. He's just trying to defend himself. He's not like some, secret agent, covert operative. That's not him. So, I mean, if you look back in the lore, he had some time in World War I, and like, you've always been able to see he can scrap, right? But he's not like, he doesn't know Kung Fu. Like, he's just trying to make his way through as best as he possibly can. It's dirty, and that's one thing that I love about it.
That'll do it.
Wink. I don't know if that's an unintentional Easter egg or not, the punch out, but I'll take the game pun. There's the guardhouse key. All right. I gotta give a shout out to all of our art department who, and especially people that came up with the world art, like how much time and attention to detail went into like just all the posters and stuff. Like, you know, when I was growing up, a lot of times in games, you couldn't read what was actually written on those. And in so many of the things that we have, you can actually, like, there's a lot of world information that's given on just the things that you'll find in the world.
What do we have here?
Posters and postcards and letters and pictures, especially. There's a lot of photographs. Come on, man, look at that. That's beautiful.
That's close enough.
There's the use of the whip. Bam! Oh, really? What I love it also is that you, obviously your enemies are gonna, you know, it gets harder as you go along. It's not always gonna be so easy. But you can build up your stamina, you can build up, there's a little bit of a slight RPG element to how you play this. Do you want to give yourself the ability to fight better, fight harder, or are you going to give yourself a last stand? It's so funny because a lot of times, as you know, as an actor, you see this on the script. You're like, okay, so this is the location. This is where we are. You forget, like, oh yeah, this is. I remember being in here. It looked the exact same as all the others. Now it looks different. There's a lot of fun prep that we got to do for this too. It's like, have you ever been to the Vatican? It's like, yes, I have. It's like, okay, do you remember this part? It's like, well, all the parts that we're going to go to is not parts that I've ever been to. Like, you don't get to go through the secret catacombs of the Vatican. An actor must prepare. So if I wanted to learn something, it was incumbent upon me to do it. Like, no one's going to do this for you. As an actor, you got to, if you need to do research, you do the research. You can't expect people to just give it to you. So in the middle of filming, there were twice that I went to Rome, and it was so cool because I'd been to the Vatican before, but it was a different experience coming in here. As almost more of I was doing recon. And subsequently there are places that I went to in the Vatican that I'd never been before. I was like, well, I've done the tour before, but what happens if I go down here? And so I got to actually like going through the tombs of the popes, and actually trying to spend as much time as I could, like Indy would, going through and not just taking pictures or looking, but actually exploring. And there's this one corner piece that I passed. I was like, oh my gosh, like Constantine laid this. Like this stone that's here, it has been here since the foundation of this empire. It was insane. So that's why I love visiting places like this, is now I get to view some of these locations or some of these pieces of architecture or things of history in a whole new light.
Just dropping by.
Man, that would hurt. Can you imagine getting whipped in the neck? It barely hit my back, and I was like, oh no. Like, there's a little scar. I can't imagine just someone, gosh, just in the neck. I would immediately I would give up. Be like, dude, whatever you want. You want to know how to get in? You need a key? I'll give you all the keys. Don't ever hit me again with a whip. This is a place that I wish I would have gone to. It's still on my bucket list to go to. But I think that I want to see it as he did. Like 1937 seems like a pretty good, maybe not 37, maybe like 33, be a better year, to experience seeing the pyramids. Because this is such a time when, you know, there was such a fascination with, like in the 20s and 30s, it was so in vogue to go and explore antiquity. So another thing that makes this a unique kind of adventure is, you know, obviously when you think Indiana Jones, you think about the fedora, you think about the whip, and sometimes the revolver. But another thing we got to include in our story is the camera, which becomes an amazing mechanic for you to not only explore the environment, but also learn more about the things that you're discovering. So to be able to take a picture and look back and go, oh, I need to take a closer look at this. Maybe there's a clue here that I've missed. Or once you've completed the game, to be able to look back through and just like have a great compendium of images of your entire adventure. Of course he would have a camera. Of course he would take pictures if he could.
Almost as good with you.
What I love is that there's kind of this great opportunity to just kind of move through the world and experience it, as opposed to not everything has to be, you know, a race against death. There's sometimes just to go and explore and have conversations with the people that are there. It's I don't know. Again, it's a really cool way to experience and immerse yourself in this world. And of course, there are puzzles. Lots and lots and lots of puzzles. Booby traps, puzzles, like that's the vibe. You kind of know going in, that's what we're going to be looking at. I wish I could hang that long. I would drop immediately and be like, oh, death. So I always thought the do the whip and you could swing across, there's no way. I can tell you this, if you can hang on to that rope, whatever you're attaching it to is probably going to break before that whip does. Whips are so well made and so tough, they're meant to endure. They can be outside in the sun, they can get wet, it doesn't matter. They're like the most resilient weapon that you could possibly use. If you could hang on to it, because there's a handle, but you know, it's got like a bottom of a hilt, almost like a pommel of a sword. If you could hang on tight, you could swing across easily. Pong. Oof. Frying pan to the face.
Bring it on.
That's a waffle iron.
Long way, chum.
Oh, Belgian waffles. That makes sense. See what I mean? It's just nasty fights.
That little guy packed a punch.
It is one thing that I love about this, that it's not a shooter, you know? It's, you're gonna be better served by hiding and improvising with a weapon rather than just like pulling out a gun and shooting, because that just attracts way too much attention. This kind of reminded me one of my favorite moments in Raiders. It's one of my favorite cues from the score, which is a great time to mention Gordy Hobb, who was our composer. Just did an amazing job with the score. But this kind of reminded me of the map room, being in that space and just kind of hearing that perfect John Williams cue. They were definitely like this tickled the fancy of the fanboy in me with Raiders. I probably shouldn't frame it that way. Thank you for staying with me as we reacted to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'm Troy Baker. I get to play Indiana Jones, and you can catch me on socials at official Troy Baker, or if you want, you can check out one of these videos.